Hello and welcome to the Insomniac Studio. I'm Brian Sink, and my job for the next 30 minutes or so tonight is going to be to keep you at least mildly entertained. So what I'm doing tonight is a portrait of a dear friend of mine. His name is Mark Sissel, and he's a guitar player, as you can see by the painting that I've already started. The painting is about 3/4 of the way finished, so we've got a really good start on it right now. Now, my goal today is to finish the hands on the guitar and to touch up any other area of the painting that needs anything. But I'll show you the reference photo that I've been working from. Let me get that up here nice and close for you. So that's the reference photo that I have been working from. Turn that down a little bit so you can see Mark's face. Really nice stage picture, professionally taken, I'm sure. And what I'm going to work on tonight is that part of the painting right there. So I'm going to leave that up and I'll get started on this thing. Now, I always tell people when I start these videos that I don't warrant that I'm an expert painter or that I have anything to offer in terms of any lessons. But I'll take you through my process and try to keep you a little bit entertained as we go along. So the first thing I want to do is clean up this little area where I have Mark's arms a little bit too wide. So I'm going to block that in a little and thin that down. Then I'm going to come in and make the guitar strap a little wider. Now, Mark and I traveled together in a band for a few years, back in the 70s. I would say the late 70s. And we were in a band called the Nathan Gray Band. And I believe we both have pretty fond memories of our days in that band. Mark, after the band broke up, went on to become Chris LeDoux's band leader. And further, he now is Ned LeDoux's band leader, operating that same capacity as he did with Chris. And Mark played with Ned and Chris together for a long time. Ned was part of the percussion ensemble in the Chris LeDoux band. He and K.W. Turnbow played double drums, called the Two-Headed Monster. And they played drums. Ned had a percussion kit that was a full drum kit, but it was outfitted with congas and I think bongos he had on there. So the only other person I've ever seen do that as part of their full-time kit was Don Williams' drummer, who always had percussion and regular toms on his kit. And I always thought that was really inventive and cool. And Don Williams was one of my favorite country musicians, period. Really enjoyed his music. So we traveled mostly around the Pacific Northwest and the Intermountain Midwest, but also went to Canada and Alaska together a few times, more than once. And that was a lot of fun. If you saw part one of this video, which is online, I can tell you a couple of things. Number one, that the audio has a terrible echo, which I had not planned for, just happened. And it didn't make it to my Facebook page, which I was disappointed by. Other than that, everything was perfect. So we're getting ready to have, I'm here in Cedar Falls, Iowa, where we are getting ready to contend with an ice storm, which is imminent. Should be showing up any time for us. And nobody is looking forward to that. Get the shape of this guitar right. When I played with Mark in our band, the Nathan Gray Band, he played a Music Man guitar with a naked lady. painted on the pick guard, or on the top of the guitar, maybe higher than the pick guard. Definitely a naked lady on his guitar. I always thought that was kind of a cool thing. Get the top of this guitar. It's looks like a Stratocaster, Telecaster style, maybe. I think a Telecaster, which would make sense because Mark plays country. The guitar strap is going to have a few fun details added to it here in a minute, along with the hands. So the palette that I'm working with tonight, pretty limited, really. We have crimson red, white, black, yellow ochre. I've got some ultramarine blue and a little bit of a turquoise blue on here, as well as a sienna. And for the skin colors and so forth on the fingers, I won't be pre-mixing any of this. I'm going to mix it up as I go with my brush, because I don't need very much paint to do this portion of the painting at all. So, as I was saying, Mark and I spent a lot of time together on the road. We were in a band with a piano player who I was married to. Her name was Jennifer Bacon. And we had a drummer named Craig Goodell, incredibly talented drummer, very versatile, one of those busy guys. He was a busy drummer. He liked playing a lot of drums. And he wound up joining Mark in Chris LeDoux's band when our band broke up. Mark took him with him as a part of the Chris LeDoux band. And I understood that didn't work out for Craig, that he didn't wind up being a permanent fixture in the band. But he traveled with him for a while. For those of you that aren't familiar with Chris LeDoux, Chris LeDoux was a rodeo cowboy, 1976 world champion bareback rider. I may be getting some of these details wrong, but basically he had a lot of credibility. He was a terrific cowboy. He sold cassettes that he'd record off the back of his pickup truck at rodeos. So he had a great reputation and a cult following. He exploded on the scene. Two things happened. I think he got a really good record contract, and then, as fate would have it, Garth Brooks mentioned him in one of his songs, and things really went crazy after that. And I think that was the evolution of the band's success. They were an overnight sensation, 10 years in the making, at least. So I'm going to work on that strap while I'm down here in this area. I've got a little bit of the guitar shape put in now. I think you can see that on the feed. Mark and I used to have some knockdown dragouts. He was a very strong-minded guy, very competent. He was the impromptu leader of the band that we were in together, and part of that was because he was just the most capable person in the group, and part of it was because he was really a strong character. The incredible amount of integrity the guy has. You can trust him with anything. Not a judgmental person. Pretty open-minded. An absolutely gifted guitar player. Absolutely gifted. Hopefully you can see these hands starting to take some shape. I'm going to take a break from that for a second. Mark lives in Nashville now, and he ran TKO Enterprises. Forgive me if I get any of these names wrong. I'm not good with names. He ran a company for Toby Keith in Nashville, or ran one arm of it. I don't know exactly how that all works. But he was with Toby Keith up until Toby Keith passed away. And I don't know if he continued on. Mark had talked about retiring after Toby Keith died. I don't know. And just touring with Ned. So I'm not sure. Maybe Mark is watching this this live stream and may chime in and tell us something about that. We're probably 30 minutes away from having a finished portrait that we're ready to sign. I hope it's about that. Just doing a little brush maintenance here. All right. So we're going to work on this little buckle, and there's a design on the strap that I think is very important that we get in here. So I need to put some silver, and there's a bronzish sort of color in the buckle that I need to mix. It's not so much a gold, it's just a little bronze medallion. I don't know if we can see that in the frame. I hope hopefully you're able to see that right now, but this is the area that I'm going to work on right now. So we need to get this color. Yeah, that looks pretty good for the brighter part. And then I need to darken the edge before the silver happens. So in the band, we had Jennifer Bacon, who was her maiden name. She was married to me, so her name was Jennifer Sink. But her maiden name was Jennifer Bacon, and she was a brilliant piano player. Craig LeDoux on the drums, and a guy named Steve, who was crazy good on the bass. He was a big Jaco Pastorius fan. Now, if you know who Jaco is, Jaco was a fretless jazz bass player who died a pretty tragic death. I think the guy was beaten to death outside of a club. He played with all the greats, from Pat Metheny to Joni Mitchell. She was in Joni Mitchell's live band, and revered by other bass players. He modified his bass. He had a electric bass that he pulled the frets out of and just filled it with wood filler. So bass players, young bass players all over the country were ripping out the frets of their basses to be like Jaco. Imagine having that kind of influence on other people. So there's a shadow that comes here from the stage lights, and this whole painting is done in the presence of really bright stage lights, and I hope that you can get that feeling from it already. And we're going to put a little bit of shine on that stone. I don't know what stone this is. It's very pretty. Get a little bit of reality on this before we move on. All of these colors, as you can see, I'm mixing on the go because we're using so little paint at this point. There's no reason for me to go overboard with putting a lot of paint down on the palette. It's just as easy to mix it as I go now. Start doing the metal work around this. Looks like silver. We're going to put the shadows of the silver in first. I'd be real curious. I don't know the significance of this guitar strap. I don't know if it was a gift that someone gave Mark, but I believe that both times that I've seen him play with Ned LeDoux, I believe both times he had this strap on. Yeah, that's plenty of detail. If we overwork that, we'll be taking it to a different level of reality than the rest of the painting, and it won't be in context. It'll stand out too much. You notice that there are no real hard edges anywhere in the painting except for here in the cowboy hat, which I don't know if that's a Stetson or a Rodeo King, but that's a, I don't know, between $300 and $500 hat. So it's a nice one. It's a darn nice cowboy hat. And I only know that it's one of those two brands because I have a Rodeo King that looks exactly like it. And the Stetson version of the hat, I think, is a little bit more. But anyway, so that's Mark's hat. The strap's got a barbed wire strand on it. And the barbed wire strand is in a fairly dark color. Let me look at the detail on this. Yeah, it runs right from the top to the bottom. So we're going to start by popping in a line in about the right place. And the barbed wire dead ends right there on the strap. Now, the detail, pretty easy to block out. So the barbed wire twists up one way, twists down the other way, and then has some loops in the middle. So you got a loop, twist up and a twist down, and there are 3 of those in between here and there, and it looks like they consistently loop either up or down. So we got the loop up and the loop down, and then the wrap of the wire. The loops are the barbs. Get a little more paint on my brush, and I'm just mixing some sienna and black, because this is really the engraved portion of it. It's tooled into the leather. Engraved was the wrong word. It's tooled into the leather, and I want to make sure and pick this detail up really nicely, because it's a awfully nice guitar strap, and we want to have that detail on the strap. All right, so now, in order to make it look a little bit more barbed wire-ish, these strands twist, and these twist around them. So to imply that twist, I'm going to make a kind of a silver, and let's start with making the wire twist around itself. Get a little of that twist going. It's a very long, elongated twist. That wire is twisting up and over itself. All right, and then the tops of the barbed wire show a detail. Let's pop that in. Okay, so now I got some darks and lights, and we're going to go back in with the gold and sienna and replace the white with gold and sienna. But the underpainting of the white is going to give us a nice light source kind of a look. And that's super cool. So it was one thing, and now it's another thing. All right. So that is the barbed wire detail on the guitar strap. We need a little brighter light, probably just some pure white on the illuminated side of this guitar strap ornament. And in the background, this needs to be almost a blue, and the reflected light of the back of the there. Yeah, that's a really good look. That's cool. So what we have left to do is define the search for the detail in these hands. I'm going to switch to a little bit bigger brush. I've only used 2 brushes for the entire painting. I've used this brush and this brush. They're the only 2 I've used. I'm going to switch to one in between those. And if I was a fancy painter guy, I'd tell you all about what size brush I was using and so forth, but it doesn't matter. I got a big one and a little one. That's all I need to tell you. So Mark lives in Nashville now, and I think he lives in a condo in West Nashville. I think he's out in West Nashville. Anyway, my son Travis is here in the studio with me. Hi, Travis.
Hey.
Is this working on YouTube, or have you been able to find out?
It's working on Facebook.
It's working on Facebook? Oh, cool. So this stream has gone live, and the volume's okay? We're not breaking up or having any problems? All right. My son Travis is my technical advisor. All right, so we're going to make these hands look better. That strap turned out really good, Travis. What do you think?
Yeah, that's good. I was wondering if you're going to add that detail or not.
I did. Make the strap a little brighter where the light's catching it right there. Oh, that's nice. That explains why it twists and turns the way it does on the shirt. So that's pretty cool. We need a little bit more light there because if it's catching that buckle that much, it must be catching the leather as well. Sooner or later, Mark Sissel will see this video. He knows I've got the painting was on my schedule to do. I never told him when it would be done because I didn't know myself. But once again, this is Insomniac Studio, and I'm Brian Sink, and I'm doing an unusually early in the day painting. I don't usually paint until the sun goes down and it gets dark, and often I don't start painting until midnight. So I'm just trying to mix a really warm, cool blue for the shadows here, so I can start to shape the fingers around this guitar. Really distinctive shape, because he is making a chord, and I almost could guess what chord he's playing by the shape of his fingers without being able to see the fretboard and the finer detail. This curves in here and there. Let's see what's happening right there. All right, that's the guitar. So that's that. That closes up there. All right. Now let's catch some bright highlights. See what happens there. Travis, are there any comments that I need to respond to, or is anybody trying to say hi on Facebook?
No comments to respond to yet.
Nobody's throwing tomatoes at me over the internet? Good. Although I like tomatoes. My son Travis is here on what I hope becomes a permanent stay, but it's a visit for now until he tells me otherwise. But it's really a pleasure to have my son around. We haven't gotten to spend near enough time together in our lives. I had my son when I was very young, and as a matter of fact, when I was traveling with Mark all over the continental United States and British Columbia, Alberta, we traveled to Alaska together. Anyway, Travis was with us for the summers during that time frame. So Travis got to do some traveling with us. Absolutely ridiculous story. We, for some reason, the girl who I was married to at the time, her name was Jennifer Bacon. She and I wound up buying, for reasons I can't begin to explain, we wound up buying an MG, a 80 or 82 MG, little bitty sports car. And then as soon as we bought it, we had to drive it to Canada because that's where the band was playing. It was in Canada. Next, we went from Texas and Louisiana to Canada. And you couldn't get parts for an MG in Canada. Nothing available anywhere, period. Couldn't get a headlight. And there were all kinds of problems with traveling in Canada with a tiny sports car, not the least of which was we had a little passenger in the back named Travis. So we would unzip we would unzip the back window of the MG, and he would sit upright with his head and torso out the back, and the MG would be flying down the mountain roads in Alberta with him hanging out the back of an MG. Yeah, it was stupid. It was stupid. Now, got to wrap these hands. This finger is coming straight out. All right, I got to figure this out. If I've got my hand around a guitar and I'm making this chord and that finger's out and I'm that far up the neck, he is probably playing an A minor 7 chord or an E7 chord. It's probably one of those two. And those chords in that part of the neck with standard fingering are referred to as cowboy chords because you can play every cowboy song ever written with those chord shapes at the far end of the neck. So they call them cowboy chords. And you can play most of the good songs with cowboy chords. You need to get this a little bit warmed up, this shadow on the hand. The cool news is when I get this done, there, that's what I'm looking for. A deep red shadow. This is where Mark would hold his pick. Doing that in that finger. And then these fingers would be in the shadow. And we're making progress. Got to touch that up with some black. All right, this looks good. That is the look of a real guitar player holding his pick as loose as he possibly can. And that's a case study in how to hold a guitar pick, I promise. All right, I need to get a Naples yellow or a brighter yellow. Maybe we'll just use cad yellow because we need to increase the intensity of the light on these hands a lot. So we're going to put a little bit of cad yellow out. I work with acrylics, so once in a while you'll see me spritzing the palette, and I keep the brush pretty wet as I'm working. And we're going to switch again now to a little bit different shaped brush. What do we got available to us here? Let me just take a look. Here's what I'm looking for right here. I've got 2 or 3 brushes in the water, kind of waiting to be used. Mark was a songwriter, really good songwriter, and still does write music. I may have mentioned this already, but I believe on the new Ned LeDoux album, Mark may have penned a couple of the tunes on there, or the album before that. I don't know. One of the more recent Ned LeDoux albums, Mark was responsible for a couple of tunes on it, but he doesn't play on the album as far as I know. We've talked about it a couple of times, and I was curious whether he was featured on the album credited as a guitar player, and he said generally not. He generally doesn't play on the live recordings, although he writes some of the parts. They're played by Nashville cats. I mean, world-class Nashville pickers wind up on these big albums. I would argue that Mark is as good as any one of them. But he will tell you humbly that he's not. Tuning pegs on the top of the guitar. Catching light there and there. Yeah, that really is starting to look good. I need to take away some of the material here. The background is red and black and sienna mixed into a really dark burnished red. This little finger actually goes in right there. This finger does that. There it is. There's the shape of the hand. Cool. Cool. Now let's get some highlights on this hand here. On the picking hand. That's where the actual pick is going to be held. Pull that up a bit on my notebook. Finger goes up and into oblivion. And this finger lives right here. And then this finger juts out. And the fourth finger is just at the tip of that. It all lives right there. All right. Take our time on this little small detail. So important. Nice and dark. There we go. Now we've made that finger move forward, the other finger move to the back. Now we're going to fill in the void. Fill in the void around the guitar where his fingers are meeting the guitar. Nice and dark there. Nice and dark there. There we go. There we are. That hand is coming together. So everything from here down is kind of on the finished side. So now we're starting to turn our attention to this picking hand. And I might as well just pop that pick in there right now, because it's one of the funnest things in the whole painting. One of the shows that my daughter and I attended of Mark's, he threw his pick out, and my daughter was able to grab the pick. She was thrilled to death. She still keeps it in her phone case of her iPhone. She's a big Mark Sissel fan. And I'll tell you, cool little detail of the guitar right there. There we go. I'll tell you, Mark's in a hot band. They've got a pedal steel player, crazy good bass player, just a groove monster bass player. And KW Turnbow is still on the drums, where he's held the rhythm down for years. Like Mark, he traveled with Chris LeDoux, and now with Chris's son. The band is hot. There's a new song on a Ned LeDoux album that's come out very recently, and the song that I refer to is a duet between Chris and the very grown-up and mature Ned. And it is, I'm very sorry that I can't remember the name of the tune, but when I first heard it come on the radio and Pandora, when I first heard this Chris and Ned LeDoux duet, I was absolutely floored. It was one of those songs, once every 6 months, I'll hear something new that just takes me somewhere and really, really hits me. And this duet does. So check out Ned LeDoux's latest album and his duet with his dad. It is crazy good. If you're a country fan, you will appreciate how steeped in country it sounds. It's a country tune. Chris and Ned have an undercurrent of rock and roll in their music. I think a lot of it is because of this guy that I'm painting right here, because Mark is so competent and can do such heavy stuff. I think that bled into the band a lot. Mark's influence as a guitar player shone through a lot, and their music became heavier with Mark at the helm of the band. I might be wrong about that. I'm sure he will correct me if I am, but that's my guess. Now we've got a nice color here on the brush. We're just going to add that dark shadow because we need that kind of all over this arm. And I still don't have the beautiful flesh tones that I'm looking for here. I need to go with my white and a little red and a little bit of yellow. Not too much. Let's just mix some of that up for the flesh tone. Too yellow, what we have going on right now. Not natural enough. There we go. There we are. Let a little bit of reflected light come back through behind that hand. Now, if you think that it's tedious to watch the hands go in, you ought to try painting them. Because I'm telling you what, this is the real deal, getting this stuff right. I have a tendon there that's pretty prominent, and a tendon right here. There we go. We're getting there. Remember, this is the last detail. All we're going to do when we finish this this part of the painting is we're going to move down to the trousers. Kind of at the bottom of the trousers, we're going to try to make them look a little bit more natural. And that's the last detail of the torso. There we go. That looks just right. Touch of reality coming in here everywhere. When I find a color that I need somewhere, I just grab it and put it there. There's that blue in the background, strong blue light reflected there. The guitar is making me pretty happy. I'm actually liking what I've got on the guitar. in terms of its intensity. Its shape is good. There's a lot that I am enjoying about the guitar itself. And that's one of those got to get it right details. Not negotiable. The guitar has to look like the guitar. Not negotiable. All right, so that guitar has come to life a little bit. The leading edge of that finger, I want to make sure that's pronounced and prominent. Get that. All right. Now, one thing is these fingers do dead end a little bit sooner than I have them portrayed, so we're going to take care of that by coming in with some really dark color here and fixing that neighborhood up a little bit. That needs to be a little wider gap. There we go. That's much better. Much better. Man, there's a lot to like about this painting right now. I'm really enjoying the process of finishing this up. I'm Brian Sink. This is Insomniac Studio, and glad you could spend a few minutes with me. We're pretty close to being done here. So my habit with these paintings, I will get them pretty close to finished today, or in 1 or 2 sessions, and then I'll let it rest for a day or two, and I'll come back to this with some fresher eyes in a little bit. And with those fresher eyes, I'll make some more decisions about what needs to be done and what does not. There we go. More light right here on the arm. We're going to switch back to a bigger brush, and we're going to block out and knock out a couple of big areas down by the trousers. I need a bigger brush so I don't make so many ugly strokes. Let's go with something over here. Here we are. Let's get this arm smoothed out with some colors that actually work over there. I'm looking for a reddish shadow, and I'm going to throw a glaze over what I already have to accomplish that. Just glaze over what I've already painted. There we go. Glaze over some of that. Give that a little sheen. Just putting a glaze over what I've already done. By glaze, I'm referring to a watered down level of the acrylic paint. Let's just see a couple places where it's going to make a big difference. And I'll pop those in. And I sure didn't mean to spritz that with white paint that was on my paper towel, but I did. All right. So, again, I'm back to this dark glaze. Get the direction of this finger really honed in. Now, I don't know without taking it to inappropriate levels of finish, how I can get that area any better, really. I think that sort of does it for the hands until I come back tomorrow and beat myself up about what I could have done better and make some corrections. And I absolutely will change a couple things still. I haven't expressed this area where a stage light's casting a brighter blue shadow than anywhere else on the painting, and I really would like to try to get some of that. So we'll give it a shot. Some of the people that are watching the video, I'm sure, I've done paintings for already, and portraits. Some of you belong in what's called the Rogues Gallery of my paintings. And the Rogues Gallery, simply put, are a number of paintings that I've done that were gifts in terms of, it's a painting that I did for someone. And I did a series of these, all of people who have impacted my life and perhaps been an inspiration to me in one way or another. People that have influenced me and made me a better musician, a better person, a better player, all the above. And what I'm working on now, you may not even be able to see. It may not be on camera. Let me pull it up. So the unfinished part of the painting really is this area going down here into the blue jeans and off the shirt. Now, I don't need to put much detail in that area at all because it's not the focal point, and it's not important that I do that. What is important is that everything balances now, and I make sense of the finish levels that I take different areas of the painting to, and they need to make sense. This part of the blue jeans, pretty stretched. It's catching a lot of light, as is the outside edges here. That's a part of the shirt, which is flowed out. And then there's a dark shadow cast by that shirt on the blue jeans. And we want to get that dark shadow in here. Well, that really dark shadow, actually. There we go. Then there are a couple of creases. There we go. And then there's a crease. Oh, that really dark shadows on the elbow of the shirt. Catch some of those. Really dark shadows. Probably the darkest things on the painting in terms of values. This is all pulled down. Get some broad strokes here. There are places in this painting where I'm striving to put in details, like the guitar strap. There are other places, like where I'm working right now, that I'm sort of working hard to keep details from creeping into the painting. One of my favorite artists, Pollock, used to talk about the notion of, his paintings were very abstract, wildly abstract. He would talk about the notion of working hard to keep reality from creeping into his paintings. And that was a challenge for him to keep that from happening. There's some detail. Really dark really dark on the back of this guitar. There we go. Well, minus the changes that I'll make when I give it my final look over tomorrow, minus those changes, this is a finished portrait of my friend Mark Sissel. It's done. I will make some refinements tomorrow. But in the meantime, for ceremonial purposes, if nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and sign this painting in my simple block letter signature, which you won't see me do because it's too low on the piece. There it is. Now, again, I'll do one really short session tomorrow in private where I'll really obsess over some small details and try to make things better. But this is kind of the finished deal. I hope you can see that really well. That is my painting of Mark. Some really neat details all the way up and down. And that is part of the Rogues Gallery. Now, I've done 30 paintings, I believe, so far for the gallery. And most of them are going to local Cedar Valley, Iowa entertainers and business people. Most of them, but not all. So let's just loosen this camera up a little bit and give you a little bit better view of this. I don't know if I can pull this off or not, but we're going to try. Camera's locked on its stand. Let's see if we can pull this out. I guess I can't get that done, so we'll have to leave that alone. What I was trying to do here is get everything loosened up where I can really show you the whole thing by moving back. Yeah. And we'll give you a view of the whole painting here. There. That is, top to bottom, the Mark Sissel portrait. And I was really happy to do this for my friend Mark. And it's turned out nicely. I'm proud of it. And I guess we will see everybody next time on the Insomniac Studio with me, Brian Sink.
Started with the countdown.
And the stream.
What do you think we've got?
And the stream.